I was lucky. Both my parents lived to their 81. That's a pretty good life for most of them, but nonetheless, it's been, I still feel like I was, a 2x4. I just.
How tough was 2017 for you? With
2017 was definitely tough. It was still coming to grips with it, still coming to terms with it. My parents obviously were an extremely important part of my life. My dad, even though his health was declining and it was still hard, but I really thought my mom would have this opportunity to sort of have this last 5-10 years of her life where she could do things her way, because it had been about my dad more, and concern, and then frustration because he was, not taking care of himself and getting old. And so that was extremely difficult to have that backed up 5 months later by my mom passing away. Like it blew my mind. So I've been, ever since that, Graham, I've been sort of like, say, you got to take a step back. You got to slow down here, and you got to think about, making sure that you're doing things that you hopefully want to do as much as possible, and smelling the roses more, maybe. And I was lucky. Both my parents lived to their 81. That's a pretty good life for most of them, but nonetheless, it's been, I still feel like I was, a 2x4. I just.
Really?
Yeah.
How did you get through it?
I'm not through it. I'm still dealing with it, but I think, like, look, you gotta just spend time, whatever time it takes, to look at the glass half full as opposed to glass half empty. I mean, if you're gonna look at it half empty, then what chance is it for a lot of other people? And so I've tried to just, basically simplify and make sure that I'm doing things, hopefully, and number one, doing things I want to do, and hopefully just putting forth into place, whether it's with relationships again, or the future may hold in terms of work, or where I want to live, and really basic things. Do I want to make changes in my life? I really think these things through and take my time and realize how important that is for me.
You said they had a serious and demanding side. They expected achievement. In what ways?
Well, I think in all ways. They gave me opportunities that most kids don't get. They put me, even though it would cost my dad, and he eventually became a partner in a law firm, but it wasn't always that way. So he tried to make sure me and my two brothers had a vacation. Not every family can do that, and go to a private school, which he thought would give, I guess, a better opportunity for something down the road. And so in return, it was expected, so the way I see it, was to be able to give everything you had in terms of whatever it was. You go out and play sports, or more importantly, do good in school, and so at least set yourself up if it just doesn't work out. It wasn't like at 12, I'm like, I'm gonna be a tennis player. I think that my dad, I didn't really want to play tennis that much. Felt like it was pushed on me a little bit. Of course, there was a club a block away from me. So it wasn't like it was that difficult for me to go out and hit some balls. But eventually I started going to different areas, and people started talking and say, hey, this guy could do this. And so there was expectations, I suppose, that I tried to deflate, or get my dad to back off a little bit. And I think I was successful in certain ways. I mean, not many kids at 12 would tell their father, look, just back off until I'm 18, because that's when we'll see what college I get into and what the future lies. I don't want to peak at 12 or 14 or 16. So I think that I was somewhat mature beyond my years, that I was sort of able to sort of see that would help me take some of the pressure off. But of course, you always wonder, and I'm sure some other people do, myself included, to what degree do you push? Did they push me too much? That caused me to some ways to sort of lash out. Or is it that, obviously, if they hadn't done that, I wouldn't have been the player I have. So to what degree do you sort of try to do that to better yourself?
I want to talk about your mom, Kay. I heard a couple stories. One, your dad finished second in his law school class of 500. She asked why he didn't finish first. Two, whenever you had an exam that you scored less than 95% on, she's asking like, what's going on?
Well,
so
that's true.
How tough was she?
Well, she was tough, but I think that she was someone that was tough in a different way. I mean, she was,
how?
Well, the business more about, look, you got to do well in school, and you can, but also she said, oh, you were always like that, Johnny. I think that she saw a perfectionist side in me at a very young age, and someone who wanted, had a desperate desire or need to succeed at whatever I did. So she maybe sort of threw a little gasoline on the fire, or what she thought would be best for me, and that's the way she was also. She was that way. Imagine, my dad being, second out of 500, and well, how come you weren't first? Well, that's sort of deflating a little bit if you think about that. But maybe that pushed him to become the person he was in law, that he became a part of. This is, we have to call Sigmund Freud up.